If you've been on the internet at least once in your life, you've probably heard of the organization called PETA. If you haven't heard of them, let me explain who they are to you. PETA stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and they are a group of very vocal animal rights activists. While some of their ideas are sometimes logical, many of them are full of fallacies that don't exactly make sense, like the straw man's fallacy, exaggeration, false equivalence, and generalization. One thing that PETA argues against is the keeping of pets, especially animals like small mammals, birds, fish, and reptiles. In their words, other species who are bred and sold as pets, including birds, fish, reptiles, gerbils, hamsters, mice, rabbits, rats, guinea pigs, ferrets, and even exotic animals such as tigers, face unrelenting suffering. However, most of us know is that it's all right to keep pets, but I will go over each individual case as they come up. Now, I will be using a variety of articles written by PETA that discusses this topic since it's essentially one of the three things that they advocate, all of them pertaining to the animals that we know and perceive as pets. So, first things first, PETA dislikes the idea of keeping non-traditional pets. This includes hamsters, reptiles, and other oddball pets listed before like birds. Because of this, PETA claims that these animals are violently abducted from their homes and families in nature and subjected to grueling transport around the world. While I do agree that wild-caught animals aren't the greatest, like parrots and mammals, since they are intelligent and social creatures, there's a group of animals that technically could be fine being wild-caught. This would be fish. And there can be some good from wild-caught fish. According to It's Not Just a Fish, or INJAF for short, a conservation group made of experienced fish keepers, work is being done by the governments of some countries to export wild-caught fish sustainably and to make a good income for their country. A good example that they talk about is Indonesia and its population of clown loaches, a popular fish among fish keepers. According to the INJAF, Indonesia has made it illegal to catch large loaches since they are the only ones that can readily breed. This is good because it protects the local population, allows a steady income for the country, and allows international fish keepers to see if they will breed in captivity, thus removing the need for wild-caught fish. While I do disagree with how PETA makes their statement overly dramatic by adding the words violently and grueling, I can agree with a bit of the point that they're trying to get across. Animals like parrots and rodents are social animals and have greater intelligence than fish. However, there's a better solution to acquiring these animals rather than not having them. I would suggest that you research where these suppliers are getting their animals from, seeing if they're a breeder or if they are wild caught. If it is wild caught, I would recommend only getting wild caught fish and making sure that they're ethically sourced. If people are saying, this breeder sent me dead fish, or this breeder sells endangered species, then don't buy from them. As a person in this era of technology, you can do a lot to make sure that you are getting what is best for both you and your new pet. When in doubt, it's just best for you to support local reputable breeders and businesses rather than supporting a shady or not well-known business. Another thing that PETA is notorious for doing is making the problematic minority of a population the majority. In almost every single PETA article that I have come across, they always put the most garbage human beings in the spotlight. For example, a paragraph from their article, Animal Rights Uncompromised, reads, humans routinely subject their companions to cruel convenience practices. They have their cat's toes amputated through declawing, drag dogs along when they stop to sniff a hydrant, yell at them to shut up every single time that they make a peep, and lock them up like prisoners in their own houses. By stating their view like this, it is making it seem like the only people who keep pets are terrible. A good majority of people are responsible pet owners and truly care about their animals. If they had reworded this differently to say some humans instead of simply saying humans, it would have been better to not put everyone under one category that makes everyone look like monsters. Another idea PETA supports when it comes to keeping animals off the street is euthanasia. They claim in their article, Companion Animal Frequently Asked Questions, that euthanasia is a tragic necessity. However, they seem to weakly stand by this when it comes to other countries taking care of their feral animal population. For example, they wrote an article discussing the feral cat population in Australia. In this article, PETA states that trapping and, if necessary, euthanizing feral cats is the only way to take these animals out of the environment humanely. But what do they consider to be necessary? Not to mention the fact that if a feral cat is trapped and relocated, it isn't going to be doing much help. With the millions of feral cats that populate Australia, shelters or sanctuaries won't be able to hold them, much like how they claim that animals that aren't adopted from shelters need to be euthanized to make more room. On the note of animal shelters, you know that there are usually people that come in and adopt some animals. Two of the dogs that I currently have are shelter animals, and I'm planning on adopting 2 pigeons from a pigeon shelter soon. So I know that people are still adopting animals from shelters. But there is a problem with PETA's stance on putting these feral cats in shelters. Hardly anyone would want one. The main problem with these cats is that they are impossible to tame once they hit adulthood. Think of them as wild raccoons or wild skunks that you can stumble across in the woods. If you pick one up, which you absolutely shouldn't unless you want to be bit and scratched, and plop it in your house thinking it'll act like a cat, it won't. That's because they are wild animals. Now, babies can be tamed since babies can adapt to their environment. Adults, on the other hand, not so much. Also, at the end, where PETA tells you how you can help with the increasing feral cat population, they make it a point to tell you to go vegan. They said, Australia's ecosystem faces many challenges because of humans and the non-native animals we breed for food, clothing, and other purposes. The recovery of at-risk wildlife populations would only be aided not only by the sterilization of cats, but also by a reduction in land clearing and therefore habitat loss. So basically what they said was, yeah, the cats are bad in killing the native species, but you know who's worse? People who eat meat. Like, it has a very, very faint link to the overall topic of the article, but not one that warranted a point on the what you can do board. I just thought this was a fun way to close off this article. This is also another point that seems kind of fishy to me. They don't use any sources, nor do they credit them. In all the articles I looked at, not one had a source credited that wasn't from their own sites. For example, in the article Our Position on Pets, they state the US market for breeding in 2021 was $2 million, and an estimated 70 million homeless animals are struggling to survive at any given time in the US. Now, normally if one was to say something like a statistic or a certain amount, a source should be credited to make their statements more credible. It allows others to see what they are saying is indeed true instead of leading them to believe that what they are saying is a lie. All in all, with all the theatrics and over-exaggeration PETA uses to get their ideas across, it makes them seem rather self-centered and pushes their agenda in a very negative way. In fact, PETA is still posting articles almost daily pertaining to this issue. If they would link some of their sources to their claims that aren't their own, stand by their ideas, keep their solutions related to the topic at hand, and not group everyone to make all of humanity look like the scum of the earth, it would help them tremendously. However, it is easy to see that all pets are fine to keep if you do your research, act like a decent human being to them, and don't support scummy business practices.